Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to our one season challenge, where we were trying to take each and every team and basically win the title within the first season. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Alpha Tauri. We did complete the challenge with our last team, so Alpha Tauri is next on the chopping block. And not only do we have a couple of issues with drivers, but we're also going to do this in 110. So I'll be making a kind of a race strategy guide in tandem, so might be a little bit out of order, but we'll deal with things as we go. So with that in mind, our first priority is probably going to be to replace the Prix. He just doesn't have the driver skills needed for us to really win any championships, which is going to be a bit of an issue. And for Tsunoda, it's actually kind of the same deal, but he has a better starting point than the Prix, so that is why we'd potentially keep him. In terms of who we have available to us, though, that's a little bit of a different story. We can try and have Alonso, which we definitely are going to do. And other than that, I believe maybe Stroll would be available. We can also get Bottas. So honestly, getting Bottas and Alonso is probably going to be the key here. But we also have a different issue at hand, which is, of course, the finances. We have 27 million available to us. And in terms of what we get in monthly balance allocation here, it's about 5 million. How much do we get per race, though? Well, we'll figure it out in 11 days. But yeah, let us start the negotiations. De Vries and Tsunoda probably both are going to have to go. Luckily for us, both of them have a contract with less than a year on it. Or rather, they enter the end of the season. So our buyouts are incredibly cheap. That is one of the advantages that we have as Alpha Tauri. Now, in terms of the car currently, it's not great. 15th to 17th and everything but acceleration. So we do have a little bit of work ahead of us, but honestly, if we can get both Bottas and Alonso, I'm still confident that we can get this done. But it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So let's start with the Vries here, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can just immediately nab Alonso. We could, of course, also wait a little bit, but I think nabbing the drivers is actually more of an improvement than making a couple of parts. So let's get Alonso here immediately. So 679k for breaking the contract from the Vries side. Don't remember how much is from Alonso's side, but I guess we'll figure that out. And I also don't remember how much we need to pay him, but I would assume between 10 to 20 million, perhaps. So let's start at 10. I probably should check this before we began, let's be honest, but at the same time, I'm not clever, so I didn't. But I'll go ahead and negotiate with Alonso. I'll go ahead and negotiate with Bottas, and we'll see how much both of these drivers are going to cost us in terms of our financial situation. So I'll get that underway. So we might have overpaid a little bit, but we got Alonso out on contract, 16 million a year, which is probably a little bit on the upper side. But honestly, he said no to 10, said no to 12, but he was happy with this setup. So we'll go ahead here, press hire, and as you can see here, this is going to cost us 12.5 million to just hire Alonso. But as I said, I think it's going to be worth it. Alonso has been key to some of the, well, to an earlier run. But with only 14 million left here, we're going to have to spend that money on developing the car. There's just no other way around it. The car is going to have to be the priority for the rest of the money. There's just no real way around that. So we're going to do what we usually do, which is to make everything but the front wing and the rear wings. We'll get the chassis, the side pods, the underfloor, and suspension prioritized first. And the reason why we are prioritizing these 4 parts immediately is very simply due to the fact that they take a long time to manufacture. And we want to have the car ready by Baku, and if we rush these 4 parts plus these 2, we'll get a completely new car come Baku, and then we can focus on developing the car after that. So that is why we're doing what we're doing. And as I said, we're going to be making a car that is mainly focused on its cornering ability. We're going to lose some engine cooling as a result, and honestly, I would recommend you actually start with your main cooling, which would be the side pods and the suspension. They have the bigger cooling multipliers for engine and brake respectively. And we can use that to actually have a look at what we expect here. So we would expect to gain about 11%, bring this up to about 55%. And with that, we can actually sacrifice some chassis cooling and still be happy with it. We're already pretty slow in terms of top speed. top speed does seem to be fairly effective though in the patch 1.10. But I still wanna go all in on a cornering build car, see if it's still viable, and if not, we might change our strategy, try this again. But again, I want to see if the old find and test the strategy works. If it doesn't, we'll adapt, and we might even still try and adapt to something more focused on top speed, more focused on, brake cooling for less incidents, sturdy air tolerance, anything like that. If we see that things aren't, effective anymore, so we'll adapt if we need to. Now, with that said, we will be focusing, as I said, on a cornering build, which means that the only thing we want for the chassis is that cornering ability, and also a ton of, that ability. We're going to lose a little bit of engine cooling, but we're going to end up around 50%, which honestly isn't terrible for your kind of first car, if that makes sense. So I'm very, very happy with that. For the brake cooling, however, that could be a little bit of a bigger issue. So we'll do what we have been doing for the most time here, which is to focus on low speed cornering and brake cooling on the suspension. And that is exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to once again end up around 50%, which isn't great. I'll admit that. But it should be good enough that we will not suffer too much. And if we see that we are suffering, we can sacrifice some of the cornering ability of the front wing, which is a terrible idea. But it's an idea that we might have to, take into account if we wish to have success. So this first safety period, we're going to put into the underfloor. We do that every time, and the reason for that is incredibly simple. The underfloor is good at everything. It's not great, or, it's not super good at everything, but it's really, really good at everything. So it's a good investment because your safety and wind tunnel time basically equals extra day of research, of expertise gain. And each unit equals a day, which means that for CFD, we have 66 days, because each one of these clicks is a unit. And for wind tunnel, we have 88. So basically, this is almost equal to half a year's worth of a slot running on underfloor once it is completed. So we'll go ahead and get that done too. And here again, we're just going to focus on the cornering, which means we're going to sacrifice top speed. We're going to sacrifice sturdy air. But again, it is a sacrifice that I am willing to do. And we are doing this to kind of experiment a little bit. Okay. That is our first initial projects underway. But what we're going to do now is use the 6 engineers that we have available to kind of speed up time for the 2 shortest ones. And also, if we can, the underfloor perhaps. The reason why we want to speed up time for the 2 shortest ones is just because that we want to get that rear wing and that front wing made, as I said before, Baku. And Baku is in 67 days. So if we want to get that done, we need to get these done ASAP and get those other projects started. So that is kind of the limiting factor, if you will. Now, I am kind of tempted to start negotiating for Bottas, but I don't remember what his contract looks like. And because of the fact that we only have 8 million, we still need to manufacture the parts that we're currently making. We do kind of need to take that into consideration too. Our staff, we're going to stick with the staff that we have, in my honest opinion. They're not great, but they'll get the job done. So, it is what it is. For Alonso, we'll just put him to long runs. And for Tsunoda, because we're probably going to have to develop him a little bit here, unless, Bottas has an incredibly kind of cheap way to break his contract, we're going to put him on short runs, because cornering, braking, accuracy are all good stats for pace. Accuracy not as much, but again, accuracy also has the effect of just having reliable lap times, running less wide, running less incidents, and thus ruining your tires. And what I really would like is to have cornering, braking, smoothness, and accuracy. That would be pretty great. But unfortunately, we don't have that, so we can't get it. Now, what I'm going to do here is just have a quick look at Bottas, because Bottas has pretty amazing pace stats. We have no idea of his contract, but we'll go ahead and propose a contract here. I'll negotiate it, and we'll see just how much it would cost for us to break his current contract. And if it's not too expensive, we might go ahead and just do that immediately. So as you can see, we run into a bit of a problem here. Bottas is still not accepting at 15 million. And also the fact that his patience is medium now, which means that this is going to be our last chance. So what I'm thinking here that we do is that we're just going to do detailed scouting for now. I could, of course, just save scum to play kind of on the safe side. But where's the fun in that? So we're going to do detail scouting. We're going to check his current contract so we know what that breach is. And if we need to, we'll just offer him a contract for 20 million, which is probably what we're going to kind of have to do to be on the safe side. And I think that's going to just have to be what we do here. But then again, Alonso is pretty amazing here with his stats. So kind of hard to find anyone better, honestly. So Bottas is kind of the same, has great pace stats. So it would be really nice to pick him up. But nothing we can do about that right now. We have everything prepped. We have our drivers kind of set up. We could, of course, also set it up as a staff, but generally here, it's not a big problem to keep things balanced. You can, of course, focus downforce if you want to. But over the course of one season, you're not going to really see too much of a change here from focusing the staff skills. It's more if you're planning to do 2-3 seasons with the same team, it can be really important. The only exception, I'd say, is to focus training and processes here for your sporting director, or aptitude and processes. You kind of want both of those to make sure that pit crew develop quickly and that they don't get too much fatigue, and of course that their skill level can go as high as possible. In earlier patches, aptitude was really important, but now it's kind of harder to reach that skill ceiling, so training and processes now are kind of what I'd say you should focus on. So that is basically it. I think we're ready, and we're just going to speed along here to Bahrain, and we'll see what we can do with the car as it is. We probably won't be able to do anything too spectacular, but in 16 days or so, we should have our first new part, and even by Canada, we might be able to snatch a point or two. That's going to be, not Canada, Australia. Jesus. By Australia, we should hopefully be able to snatch a point or two. And I just want to also give you a heads up throughout this video that I'm probably going to be a little bit confused because this is going to be recorded over a ton of sessions, simply due to the fact that I'm still kind of sick. You can probably hear some of it from my voice. Last week I was, well, 2 weeks ago, last week too for that matter, I was kind of knocked down with the flu, a pretty bad case to be fair. And then I went back to work, and now just a few days later, I'm back home again with a swollen throat. And generally, if I speak for more than 15 to 20 minutes in a go, it starts to hurt pretty badly. So I'm going to be taking breaks, taking it slow. But don't worry, I wouldn't record if I didn't want to, personally. But I'm just giving you guys a heads up in case I end up sounding like an old man on the deathbed. I'm fine. It's just that I'm having a little bit too much fun maybe with the save game. So just a heads up, a little bit of warning. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. It's no concern. It's just usually what happens when you work with children. Right around Christmas, everyone picks up every disease under the sun. And of course, they hand it over to their teachers because why wouldn't they? But yeah, let's speed along to Bahrain and see how we do in our first race of the season here. Just also want to give a heads up that we will be experimenting a little bit with the pit crew over the course of this save. Well, this season bit literally. But this is what I'm going to be going with for the first month. We're basically just going to be trying to keep the tiredness here below 10% going into race weekend. We'll have a look at it a little bit afterwards. But generally, I might mention this from time to time too. So just keep that in mind that I'm doing a bunch of experiments too. That's probably going to delay the release of this video a little bit. But honestly, that's just how things are going to have to be. So yeah, a lot of side projects while making this, but that should be perfectly a-okay, I would think. But yeah, this is going to be the goal for the first month. Do say Charles' mistake, but almost a percentage point. We're going to get a little bit more pit stop time, but we're also going to be experimenting with car building here to see if having a high level car building helps with gaining less fatigue over the course of race weekends. So this is what we're going to do. Let's see how we look in a few months' time. Not the worst qualifying here for the boys, and we might actually nab points earlier than I anticipated. Alonso in 11th, Tsunoda in 13th, but the Reese here coming back again, a little bit of revenge by sliding in between them. But that is actually a really, really good start to this, I would argue. And again, just keep in mind we are playing standard difficulty. We might retry, well, we probably will redo these kind of challenges on hard difficulty at one point, But I want to see if I can do them with every team. Well, not every team. The lower rated teams on standard first. So nothing really out of the ordinary here, with the exception of Magnussen being quicker than Russell, Ocon, and Gasly. But this is pretty around where we expect it to be, I'll be honest. So with that in mind, we'll get things set up. This is more what we expected. And hopefully here we can have a good first race. It's probably going to be a little bit bumpy, so we'll have a look and see how we perform. And then we'll probably skip through Jeddah and kind of Australia a little bit before we see how the car actually performs at Baku. But for now, let's get the car set up for the race itself. And in terms of strategy here, with 1.10 now being out, we're going to have to take a couple of things into consideration. Bahrain is one of the tracks where the softs have a gigantic advantage of 8/10ths and a very slow degradation of just 400s, which means that for 20 so laps, the softs are going to hold an advantage over the mediums on the, well, if you run them at the same pace setting. For the mediums to hards, it's half a tenth, or 5/10ths, sorry, half a second, 5/10ths. And degradation is even 1/3 of the mediums, 200s, so basically it takes the mediums 25 laps to become comparable to the hards, which means that if we can, we're going to try and avoid the hards as much as possible. Now, earlier strategies here, these are the current standard strategies, and they're pretty close to each other because they're basically just variations of the same strategy. Now, what we usually would do here is actually just, well, before, would be to start in the mediums, push it very aggressively, go into the hards, do the same thing, and then finish off with a soft stint that may or may not be viable. It's still a viable strategy, as you can see. And if we compare it to the lap times here of the base strategies, it's still 10 seconds quicker. But what I'm thinking is that we can do something that is probably a little bit better. And what I'm thinking is that we're going to do 2 soft stints rather than a hard stint. And we're going to try and run these softs as what I like to call pseudo hards, which is basically just we take a soft tire and we kind of turn it into a hard equivalent. But degradation isn't actually as hard as I expected, or as harsh as I expected. So let's see here. If we do something like this, as you can see, the time goes down if we run the tires on standard. And the reason for that is incredibly simple. Degradation. So even if we were to tune them up like this, run them on light, we still just lose 1 second over the course of the entire stint. And that can be actually really valuable, because towards the end of the stint then we can run full attack. And if we are so inclined, we can go full attack earlier. But I want to see how this strategy does compared to our current one. It's a good 17 seconds quicker. And wait, I'm silly. This is actually 11 seconds slower. So this is not worth it at all anymore. I got the numbers wrong. I'm so used to this being best that I completely befuddled myself. This is shit. Don't do this. Hards really are worthless, even running full attack here. So this is really, really bad. This is just me being confused by the numbers, being so used to full attack strategies being the best that I straight up thought that these were the numbers compared to this one. But yeah, this one's slower, not quicker than the standard strategies. Don't do it. But at least we can shave off 6 seconds by running the medium stint on full attack. But the soft stints there are going to be kind of what makes up time. I guess we could. Now, even if we do that, it's going to be slower. This is probably the best you can do, honestly. The only other thing that we could do here would be to start on the mediums again, because it is just the best choice, unless we take a hard tire and we run it immediately into the ground, a soft tire, run immediately into the ground, which I really wouldn't recommend, because your soft tires are extremely valuable here. You want to make them last. You don't want to get rid of them immediately. The only other thing that I could imagine to be useful here would be to try something like this, a one-stopper. A very, very aggressive one-stopper at that, because this is basically the only way we can make this work. And as you can see, it would still be slower than a two-stopper by 11 seconds. And while this could be kind of interesting, it is quicker than the base strategies. So wouldn't really recommend it. Let's put it like that. So we're probably going to try this one for both cars, and I think that is the best bet here.
And this is it, the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Lights out and away we go. We're going to go with rally, defend, and low. But I'm also going to start experimenting a little bit with not using battle assist. Could get away with it earlier, but now pace is a little bit more important, so we'll be tuning it up to just have a little bit of a look at it. Okay, I got worried there for a second because it said defend the racing line. That gave me a little bit of a mini heart attack, in my honest opinion. Alonso has made up a place that should help his confidence a little bit, which is going to be great, particularly early race. Tsunoda, same. Very, very good. And if we take a look at the cars around us, most have opted to start on the medium tires. That isn't that much of a surprise, in my honest opinion. The medium tires are the slower ones, so you want to kind of use them up in that first stint. And that is kind of what we are aiming for here. So, we're in the points currently. We'll settle in though. We'll try and just burn these tires up and pit. Hopefully before everyone else. That's going to be key here. We might actually end up pitting earlier than lap 18. Which is when we're planning, because we do have tires to go on. And to be honest here, these stints here are less than 20 laps. So it's perfectly safe to pit earlier, just to make sure that we get more kind of out of these tires than we otherwise would. So that is going to be an idea. And these tires can go up to 35 degrees, so we aren't even overheating them severely yet. So this is still pretty much a-okay. Alonso is actually keeping up with Ocon, which is great to see. Tsunoda is kind of stuck behind that Haas, but should be able to get by, given DRS and maybe a little bit of energy to help. So I'm thinking we're going to be recharging both of them. We're going to be trying to move forwards a little bit. But for now, we're kind of happy with where we are. And that goes for both drivers in the current situation. So we'll settle in and we'll see where we're at once we come to that first pit stop. We've had a little bit of an incident here for Alonso. That is going to be a little bit problematic. He's locked up.
So far, and there's the lockup.
That's gonna hurt. He's now down into 17th, and while he didn't burn much of the tires, it's still not a great position to be in. So what I'm thinking is that we push for a lap, 2 laps maybe, and then we pit him, and that should be enough that we can make these soft tires last till the end. That's gonna be the key here. So we are gonna allow him to run 1 more lap, and then we shall pit him. And I think that's just going to be how we're going to have to play this in order to try and get him back up into the points, because he did lose a decent chunk here. If we take a look at his current pace, lost about 12 seconds. He was with Ocon and De Vries. So not great. Tsunoda's also fallen backwards there in terms of pace. And there's nothing we really can do about that. It's just how things are. We are going to go ahead here, though, and get Tsunoda in at the end of this lap. We're just going to pit a little bit earlier. We can see Show is pitting too. So if we want to make any jumps here due to pitting early, this is basically when we're going to have to do it. So let's see if we can get some jumps done by getting our pit stops done a little bit quicker than everyone else. But now, though, we'll kind of settle in. We'll allow time to pass, and we'll just see if we get those jumps that we're hoping for. Alonso and Tsunoda, a little bit behind the rest of the pack here, but I would assume that we'll be seeing a lot quicker lap times. We have Ocon pitting early. That's not great for us, but 37.7, that is equivalent to Red Bulls, about a second quicker than some of the other cars here. So not necessarily a bad thing, but we didn't pit soon enough here that we jumped as many cars as we would have hoped. But we are up to 15th currently. And there are other cars that are going to get slow. We see a bunch of them pitting right now. And how many are we going to be able to jump? That's going to be the big one here. And currently, looks like we have jumped the cars that we can. So we'll just have to try and make the best out of this soft stint before we go into our final one. And unfortunately, because of that lockup, we might not get our first points here. But we'll still do the best that we can do. We are getting closer to that final, pit stop. We're going to be pitting probably on this next lap. Alonso down to 17th here. As you can see, he had another incident, bit of a spin that didn't do him any favors. Let's just put it like that. Now, Tsunoda, I'm kind of tempted to gamble on running for an extra lap. But Alonso, we are going to be pitting at the end of this one. There's just no other way around it. and we're just gonna have to try and make the most out of it. I'm gonna allow Sonoda to attack for one more lap because he's actually running fairly rapid doing so. So that is why we're gonna allow for this to happen. Although, as you can see, he's probably gonna run out of tire probably around here, maybe a little bit before that. Yeah, but even then, I still think it's worth it. It is a bit of a gamble though, but it's a gamble that I'm willing to take. Now, we did take a couple of sponsor goals here, mainly that we were going to finish top 15 with a driver. So Tsunoda is currently under a little bit of pressure to get that done, and of course we pick up the pit stop error on Tsunoda as a result. So yeah, this first race of ours is not going very well for our boys, let's just put it like that. But we are on the final stint now, and ahead of us we do have potentially here a couple of cars that are going to have to pit, and if they don't pit, they're going to suffer a little bit. We saw Sargent there get in, so we'll see what we can do with Tsunoda. Hopefully we can stick to top 15, but if we can't, that's just going to be a little bit of an unfortunate moment for us. But for now, we'll keep going and see what we can do, and hopefully Alonso can come back stronger at Jeddah. So, not the worst performance from Tsunoda. He actually managed to make his way up to 12th. He was the last car lapped though, or basically the highest lapped car. But with Tsunoda making up to 12th, Alonso in 16th, it's still not shabby. We could probably see something better happen later on. But this is a good starting point, and we might actually keep Tsunoda due to that. We'll see. But yeah, it is acceptable. Just a bit unfortunate that, of course, Tsunoda did get the stuck wheel nut, but honestly, it wouldn't have any effect on him. It was basically top 15 or bust in this case, and we got what we kind of needed. So as I said, we can't be too upset, and apparently Lawson leveled up over the course of that race weekend. So in 2 and 5 days here, we're going to get our first couple of projects done. We're going to get another ATR period, which we might actually go ahead here and put into the front wing, is what I'm thinking. But the side pods have been made here, and we're going to go ahead and manufacture them immediately. We're going to have one set ready for Jeddah, the other set ready for Melbourne, and that is perfectly fine. We could rush them, honestly, but it won't change anything. It's still going to be done before Melbourne, and that's going to be kind of the goal. Again, we want the car ready by Baku. We are going to have to try and save a little bit of money if we want to get Bottas as well. So we're going to be playing it a little bit safe here on how we do things. Now, generally here, I would probably recommend saving this second ATR period for your suspension. And that might actually be what we do. So I think we're going to do that. We're going to save it for the suspension. We're going to make another one right away. And that is honestly also fine to do. But if we didn't, we'd probably put it into the front wing. But the way that our ATR works is that when you use ATR, the current part doesn't get the big boost. Basically, ATR is a huge boost to your expertise, and that happens after the part is done, which means you need to make another part after making the ATR part, meaning that we need to make this one with ATR. Once this one is finished, we need to make another one with the same sliders to see the real boost in stats. So honestly, for this one, it's fine to put it into the front wing, I feel. So we'll go ahead and do that. And as I said, we'll have to see what we want to do here in terms of the stats we lose. We might end up putting a bit of an investment into a little bit of the cornering, the brake cooling here, and also maybe the mid-speed, medium-speed cornering ability as well. We're going to lose a lot of dirty air tolerance, which is really bad. But seeing as this isn't going to be the final version of the front wing, I feel like this is an acceptable way of doing things. So the gains there are pretty massive for us, honestly. But we are going to lose some high speed, of course, because we are focusing several stats. So is it a good trade? I think so. But what we probably might want to do instead is something like this, or even something like this, where we just focus on that low speed cornering ability. And as you can see, we can get a massive amount of low speed in particular from doing this. And usually low speed is what you'll be lacking the most. But I think we're going to do this. We need a little bit more balance right now. And honestly, the best source of balance would be the underfloor. But I think we're going to just go all in here, invest into the front wing. And if we use rushed here with 6 engineers, we can get that third front wing done, potentially, with 20 days each, before Baku. So this should still be an acceptable way of doing things. And also, for the final PC, we might not focus brake cooling, but we decided to put the sliders like this to get a little bit of extra expertise in low speed, medium speed, and the brake cooling. So let's see how this pans out. 2.4 million, let's get that out of the way. And once this chassis is done, we're of course going to manufacture them. There's no reason for us not to. And we're going to actually get 2 of them ready for Melbourne by just doing it normally. So that could be very, very important. And that could mean that, as I said, we'll have a pretty good car come Australia. Don't know if we'll get the suspensions in time, probably not. But again, that isn't too big of a deal. But for now, let's get the railing set up. And again, I am pretty determined on how I set up my rear wings. They're basically made for top speed only. Top speed and DRS. But as I said, we are losing a lot of dirty air tolerance to the point where we might need to focus a little bit on it. We also might need to, as you can see, invest a little bit of that top speed and DRS effectiveness into cornering ability. And honestly, if we want to be really, really cheeky, we could try something like this. But honestly, that DRS delta in particular is more than enough value for me that I'll go ahead and do it like this. Basically, the rear wing does have some potential for downforce, but it is also your biggest source of top speed and DRS effectiveness, acceleration, and as such, this is basically the trade-off. We have 5 parts that are focused mainly on cornering, and we have 1 part that is focused on DRS and drag reduction. And if we need to, we can actually make it focus a little bit more onto the air tolerance side. Well, the air tolerance side of things too. For now though, we're gonna probably just leave it like this. And if we see we have a lot of problem following other cars, we'll go ahead and change it. The main negative way of doing things, or the main negative effect of doing a cornering based car with low dirty air, is that you're going to be absolutely useless in wet races because you don't have DRS. We are relying on the DRS for most of our passing. We use our cornering to get close to the car in front, to get great lap times, to get decent qualifying, and then we use our DRS to get past the car in front, which means that DRS trains, we're bad at them, but we're also bad at the rain. And those are the 2 trade-offs that I'm very happy with trading off here, because we have no problems getting close to the car in front. DRS is going to make it very easy to get by. If we don't have DRS, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. But as I said, we can focus onto the dirty air aspect, the top speed aspect, after we have a car that is already fairly competitive. So that is at least my school of thought, and that is how I set up my car in terms of design here. And we'll try that in 110 as well. But with tire degradation, with the fact that we can't run attack as much as we used to, we might be forced to, look at other schools of thought, so to speak, top speed, a little bit more dirty air coverage, things like that. But for now, we'll stick with the old and true strategy, as I've said. So we might investigate how that would work in a different video. For now, though, we're going to jump straight into Saudi Arabia. Again, we have no upgrades here, I think. Well, we might have a side pod. Yes, we have a side pod that I think we're going to give to Alonso. He is the better rated driver, even though Tsunoda has performed better so far. So we're going to give that side pod to Alonso. And as you can see here, it does actually jump us pretty aggressively up the grid. So the main thing here is the medium speed, the high speed here, and of course the fact that we get a decent chunk of engine cooling. So we'll put that on the car. We do lose some top speed again, but it is a sacrifice that I'm more than willing to make. And if we do car analysis now, it's still not great that, much better than the teams around us. But we have jumped 2 places on the high speed, we jumped 4 places on the medium. Again, 2 speed, 2 places equals a team, 4 places equals 2 teams because every team is 2 cars. So basically we're getting a little bit better on high speed, a little bit better at medium speed. But we're going to need all parts basically because we're so far behind before we start to see any big gains. So for now, we're going to go with the same kind of promises that we did for the previous race, where we kind of say that we're going to have cars into Q2. We're going to gamble on both cars this time because we did it last time. And we're going to do that for both here, potentially earning us, I a nice extra 350,000, but of course we could also end up losing close to 90,000. But again, I feel like that is a risk that we should take. Let's go to Saudi and see if we can do well there as well. Jeddah ended up being our first point with Alonso here. Unfortunately, we're still behind De Vries, but De Vries did fairly well, I'll be honest, and nothing we could do with that. Tsunoda down in 16th, had a pretty terrible qualifying, and the same can kind of be said for Alonso as well. But remember, Alonso has the sidepod upgrade, Tsunoda does not, so that is why we're seeing that difference. And unfortunately here, Verstappen has basically been scoring full points so far, lacking fastest laps. So that's going to make our job a little bit more difficult, the fact that the Red Bulls are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And as you can see here, we did gamble on getting both cars into Q2. Tsunoda failed, that cost us a bit of money, but it's a gamble that I was willing to take because, again, we need the money. Now with that, we do have that suspension design finished. Perron has leveled up as our sporting director, and generally here, this suspension would be a pretty nice upgrade in terms of low speed cornering. The brake cooling in particular is going to be nice, so we're going to go ahead here and make 2 of them. They'll be done. Well, we'll have 1 for Melbourne basically, but basically Melbourne is going to be our first time where we really have a chance of scoring points, so can't really complain too much. Now, I would also like to upgrade the factory once we get an opportunity to do so. That's probably not going to happen in the future, though. We're still going to try and get Bottas too, just to give ourselves a little bit of that extra boost for scoring points. And we got this event. Okay. This is perfect. So this is an event that I usually turn down, but basically here, you get extra engineers, you get extra project capacity, you get a little bit of boost to stats, but it does have a condition. There's a condition you need to fulfill to get this, and this is to make sure that you actually have a, well, fully conditioned design center. If you're on the 3rd bar here, well, if you don't have 4 bars, if one of them are empty, you'll not be getting the extra project capacity, extra engineer capacity, and as such, we're definitely going to go ahead and agree to this. 45 days with a couple of extra slots is going to be really, really good this early on in the season. And if we have a look at the calendar, it's 11 days until Australia, and then we have another 4 weeks after that for Baku. So we're definitely going to be able to properly design parts. But the main issue with this blessing that the game hath given us is the fact that it's going to lead us to us spending more money. That's the best way I can describe it. We're going to be spending a lot more money as a result of this. So it's problematic from that perspective, but honestly, it's fine. And what we're going to go ahead and do now is make a part that is a little bit different from what we usually do. Get a little bit of base engine cooling, drag reduction, and then we're going to go a little bit of that airflow back on the next one. We're not going to be manufacturing this part. It's basically just to get the expertise numbers for drag reduction and engine cooling up. And honestly, we could go for airflow middle too. But we want to kind of make it so that the next part that we make, chassis-wise, gives us back a little bit of the stats that we lost from our airflow middle focus. So it's a bit of a weird one, but we'll run it normally. Kind of have to. And as you can see, we actually ran out of engineers. So you don't get the 15 engineers automatically. You actually need to go to your staff, your engineering team, and hire them. And we're going to go ahead and do just that. Hire 5 engineers. It's going to cost us 50,000 to do so. And it's not really a big deal. It's, you know, very, very little money in the grand scheme of things. And we're basically going to be doing this for kind of every part. But for... let's do it like this for the suspension. Again, we're not going to be using this suspension. We're basically just doing this in order to level the expertise. That's the main purpose of this suspension. Level the expertise so that we can get more out of it at a different time, basically. So that is the idea. But as I said, we're going to be spending a lot of money here. But it's probably going to not be possible to pick up anytime soon as a result. But I feel like this is a decent trade-off that we kind of have to try and take advantage of this while we can. So I am fine with the current situation, and we're going to go ahead and do something like this. where we do lose some stats, as you can see. But again, main thing that we do here is get more expertise for the stats that we need. So let's go ahead and make that side pod. And in just a day here, we're going to have the underfloor. This is the underfloor we use CFD and internal time on, so we need to make another design anyways. And we could probably get one underfloor out for Australia. We're going to do that because we need to start scoring points as soon as possible to kind of try and hamper Red Bull. So let's just go one day forwards. Underfloor design has been completed, and we're going to go ahead and start another one right away. Now, in terms of the stats that we're getting, let's just take a quick look at that before we start designing a new one. So 35, 54, 84. Those are the numbers that we're interested in. Well, 36 also. They're a little bit inaccurate. But yeah, 36. Let's just say 35, 55, 85. It's easy to remember. But if we take a look at the design now, and we make another underfloor, that's identical in terms of the sliders, in terms of everything, you can see that the boost here is massive compared to what we were getting. We were getting 35, 55, and 85. This is a pretty significant boost, and this is with us really not doing anything. This is just from that expertise boost that we got from making a new, investing our internal and CFD time. We basically get half a year worth of experience, and that does translate into massively improved stats here. We're barely losing any top speed on this one compared to the current one. We're barely losing the air tolerance compared to the current one. So this is a pretty significant and also important update with that in mind. So we're going to go ahead and rush this one, because of course we are. And with that, we'll hopefully be able to get them out before Baku. That's going to be the big one. So let's go ahead and get that design started. And as I said, we'll kind of pause. We're probably not going to be able to pick up Bottas. But once that scouting is done, a month into the game, we can actually have a look at... I hope I'm scouting him. I think I did. Just going to double check. Yeah, one scouting in progress. But once we're done actually scouting him, we can have a look at his contract, the expected cost of breaking it, and then make a decision from there. So that is the idea behind our current strategy. But we'll speed along here now till we get to Australia. We have all of our... Well, the scouting is done here. So buyout fee of 13 million. So as you can see there, no chance that we can pay that in the near future. So we might just be stuck with Sonoda with that in mind, because this is going to take us months to save up. So yeah. That's not great. That is going to be a little bit difficult, but we'll keep Sonoda for now. Nothing really much we can do about it. And we're just going to make one underfloor like this. But as you can see here, we're losing 0.01 kph in terms of top speed. We're losing 0. something in dirty air tolerance. So that increased underfloor is massively important for us to be able to lose less stats for one, but also keep the stats that we have. And we're going to do the same with the front wing. In 4 days, we're going to get a front wing. It's going to be used with CFD. Well, we're probably going to make it one of those front wings anyways if we can. If we rush it off, we make the underfloor, we can make one, but that's a risk. But it's a risk that we might need to take here. Front wing design has been completed. And if we take a look here again, 42 and 34, because these are numbers we're interested in. And with that, we'll go ahead. We are going to get way better numbers here because we also invested into some brake cooling. Do keep that in mind. We're also not going to be losing as much dirty air and high speed because we'll not be investing in brake cooling. But even then, we should see massive gains there on that front wing because we use CFD time. So we want to focus low speed. We're going to sacrifice these two stats. We are going to probably sacrifice high speed. And already it's purely just an upgrade, mainly here. 78, 61. This is honestly fine with me. We get a little bit of brake cooling, even though we have the slider at as far down as it can go. 1.5% of dirty air tolerance loss is very, very acceptable for these gains. Now, because of the fact that front wings are pretty susceptible to damage, or rather, they have a very short lifespan, we can go ahead and just do 2 ticks like this. Doesn't cost too many stats, but it kind of doubles the expected lifespan in terms of races. So we're going to go ahead and do this just because we are kind of poor already. And because of the fact that we are going to be not only rushing this one, but we're going to be putting 6 engineers on it so we can get it done in time for Baku. And with that, it's going to cost us 2.4 million. But the main thing here now is that we're going to need money in order to manufacture these parts for both cars. Because we now, once this front wing is finished in 20 days, and the underfloor too for that matter, we're going to have a completely new car that we need to put together. Well, 2 new cars that we need to put together before Baku. And that's going to be a little bit challenging to some degree. So we'll have to see exactly how we do that. Now, the front wing here, as I said, we can make one. It's not vital though to the next race. So rather than losing 6% to the air tolerance, I think we're just going to not do this. We're going to play it safe. And honestly, I'm fine with that. But we are going to manufacture something else. The underfloor 2 here, it's not vital for anything, but we'll go ahead and install it on car 1. So what I'm thinking we do here, basically the only thing we can do is go ahead and make another side pod. It'll allow us to keep we'll have one spare, which would be nice. And in 8 days, the rear wings are done anyway, so unless something, well, not even then. There's no reason not to make a side pod right now, honestly. Except for maybe financially, as we've gone under $1 million, but that is fine. That is honestly okay right now. We're going to be taking over the month soon, and our monthly balance is almost 4 million. We're also going to be doing a race, so we're going to get about 6 to 7 million to play with over the next month. Which probably means that development-wise, we might be in a tad bit of trouble, as we probably will not be able to fill all slots again. But at the same time, yeah, I think it should be okay. Because the main thing is just to get that new car put together. And that's gonna be the important part here. We'll have a chassis for both cars for Australia. And we'll also have new suspension for Alonso, basically. So let's put on the new parts here. And then I want to just compare the parts now, or not the parts, the cars in their current state, and see how much of development we've actually done come Australia. So car 1 versus car 2. Let's see what we are looking at. And as you can see here, car 1 here now is actually the best car in terms of high-speed cornering ability. We have decent brake and engine cooling. We have decent low-speed and medium-speed cornering. We are lacking in top speed and DRS. That's because we don't have the rear wing upgraded yet, and we're going to be lacking top speed anyways. But this car is massively improved over the base car already. And it's just a shame for Tsunoda's sake that we don't really have anything to give him other than just that extra side pod. But even that is going to be a massive help here with the huge gain of high-speed cornering ability. So it's not all terrible. For now, though, we're going to speed along till the race weekend. And we'll see if we can actually score some points in Australia. As it turns out, Alonso is a pretty decent cheat code for this game, I feel. But as you can see it too, we are a 10th, well, 10th and a half off second place in quali. So a little bit frustrating that to be this close to, potential front line at at Australia, sorry, to all Australians and Austrians. But yeah, we're pretty close here. And we'll be trying to make something out of the race itself. In terms of strategy here, soft should be pretty decent, unless my memory is betraying me, which it often does. But yeah, about 3/10 advantage, 200 difference, so 15 each laps where, well, actually 14, perfectly here. Laps with the soft 7 advantage of the medium to hard, 5 tenths almost, 300 difference of degradation, so 16, 17, 18 laps or so of advantage. So with that in mind, we want to try and set up a strategy. So standard strategy here, medium to hard, is not probably a horrible idea. A 2-stopper here is also not a horrible idea, particularly because we can do this with both the medium and the hard tire. This place doesn't have the highest of degradation, so that does help, making this very, very viable. Sorry for the coughing here. I've been speaking a little bit too much, so my throat is committing a little bit of the die, but we'll finish this race before we take a break. So yeah, if we're gonna go for something here, I think we're gonna be switching things around a little bit here, to the sense that we do medium first, just burn it immediately, then we go through the hard, and then we go to the softs in the end. And that does also give us the opportunity, if we need to run them light, go on them a little bit earlier. That shouldn't be a problem. So this does sound good. We can attack towards the end, and we are probably going to do something similar for Tsunoda, even though, in my honest opinion, it probably would be better to start on a soft tire and burn it out. Basically, just so that we... basically what I mean is, because Tsunoda starts 16th, starting on a soft tire and burning it out so that we pit early, then we go into a medium and hard, that could benefit us. But the thing is, we need to keep these tires alive at the same time. So we could either do this, or what is potentially going to benefit us more is something like this, where we use the medium as kind of a control, if you will. Either that, or we go ahead and we go a little bit more cheeky with it with a soft tire again. But as you can see, the medium is going to be quicker. So this is probably the best we can do for Tsunoda. A little bit of an alternate strategy: pit very early, try and make a places early on in the race, pit, go on the hard, catch up to the back of the grid before they start pitting, hopefully, and then and then take it from there. But these are the strategies we'll employ. Let's see how the race itself goes. Of course, we're going to be pushing from the race start. And hopefully here we can score a podium at the very least for Alonso. He's currently in a pretty good position, I think. So we'll do our best. Let's see how it turns out for him. But we're probably going to be doing this for sure.
Brace yourselves for the Australian Grand Prix. And it's lights out.
So we've put our cars here on inverted strategies for the very simple reason that, well, Tsunoda is towards the back, Alonso is towards the front, and that's kind of what we expected here, in all honesty, because of the fact that, well, Tsunoda doesn't have as many upgrades as Alonso does, so it's the natural order of things, so to speak. But yeah, Alonso, currently running 5th, does have a pretty good chance of getting a win, and as you can see, we'll be running the mediums and the hards here, full attack till the end, and for Tsunoda, we'll be doing the softs and the hards instead, with a more calmer medium stint to finish it off. And the reason for this is incredibly simple. Doing so will allow us to hopefully get some, well, jump some cars during the pit stops. That's going to be the idea. But for both Alonso here and Tsunoda, the first stint is kind of just settling in, doing the best that we can. We are falling a little bit behind the top 3. But even with that in mind, I do think here that Alonso does have a pretty decent chance of potentially snatching a podium. But we'll have to see. That's going to depend highly on probably a little bit from the Red Bull's performance. We do have lacking DRS, so we still have some problems, but they should be sorted out come Baku. But this should be a great chance for us to score a decent chunk of points here. So I do have some high hopes, and we'll have to see now if Alonso can catch up to Perez and Verstappen up front. And I think it might be a little bit difficult for him. But degradation-wise, it's looking good already. You can see degradation here is kind of less than we anticipated. So we'll keep things going here until we get to that first pit stop, and then we'll see what we can pull off in this race. And we have immediately gotten a virtual safety car here, and Alonso has been given 3rd place as a result, which is a little bit unfortunate. But it is Perez and Leclerc by the looks of it. Yep. Wing loss. That is pretty bad for the Ferrari. But as you can see there, we were about to get the overtake done, and then the virtual safety car got called. But the fact that, oh, it went full safety car. We might be in a tad bit of trouble here because of the fact that we've opted to stay out. Honestly, Tsunoda. I thought it was just going to be a virtual safety car. That throws a wrench in our plans because I'm pretty sure that Alonso is past the pit exit or pit entry, rather. But Tsunoda still can pit if we want to. And I think that's going to be the play here, that we change Tsunoda's strategy to a hard to medium. One stopper, kind of. And we do have the opportunity of doing that here. That's not actually a bad thing to do. We can still keep on running attack. And I think that's what we're going to have to do for Tsunoda. But Alonso, he's going to suffer because we didn't pit with the rest of them. But honestly, that's not really much we can do. It's one of those weird situations where the incident happens basically in the last few corners. I go a little bit too quickly as a result, and we end up not really pitting. So everyone except for us, Russell, Gasly, Sargent, and Norris did pit. Tsunoda here in the pits now. It's getting held up a little bit, but not by much. Comes out in 13. I think we can be happy with that. So I think that is the first time I've seen like major pit traffic in this game after 1.10. So I do like that. Usually Tsunoda would be probably coming out behind both Ocon and Stroll. Usually. Leclerc picks up a penalty there. So he'll be punished next race because he's out. Yeah, potentially here, as I said, a little bit of a bad situation. But if you consider the fact that everyone is going to have to pit again, I think we can still make something out of it. The problem here is just, will we really be able to make something out of it? That's the main concern. Because we are still planning to pit twice, while the rest are probably just planning to pit once. And creating a gap is going to be next to impossible, so we might need to amend our strategy a little bit. As I said, safety cars are common here. But in this case, I just got fooled by thinking that, nah, it's just going to be a virtual. Let's see how things look on the restart, and hopefully we can get away safely. Safety car is ending, so we'll tune both cars up. And the main goal here for Alonso is just going to be to try and use Russell and Gasly as kind of shields. That's going to have to be the goal here. For Tsunoda, it's just going to be get as much done in these cars as possible. We're still going to run them full attack. There's no reason not to get the most out of them. And looks like Alonso here did get a really good runaway here, already creating a 1 second gap to the car in front. Tsunoda, no such luck in terms of overtaking, but if Alonso can keep this up, and Russell and Gasly keep Verstappen kind of bogged down, restrained, if you will, this could still be a very good race for us, in my honest opinion. But we'll keep on working, try and get De Vries, I was about to say, Tsunoda, past De Vries, and we'll see if we can create a big gap here for Alonso. But I still think that we just need to try and push as hard as we can. But as you can see, Verstappen has already just gotten past the cars in front, and he is probably going to get us here by the end of the race, I have no doubt. But a podium is going to be a goal here. We'll have to see if we can snatch that. Just a shame that the Ferrari was the one that got taken out, honestly. Tsunoda overtaken by Stroll, but let's face it, the Red Bull, sorry, not the Red Bulls, the Tsunoda has one upgrade on his car. He is not supposed to get in the points here. But even then, we'll do our best, and we'll see where we're at in a few laps time, when we will be pitting Alonso. So we'll be pitting Alonso on this lap. Left him out probably a lap longer than I should. But it should be okay. We're kind of trying to keep him out for as long as possible in order to get him into the best potential pit window that we can. Potentially here, we might see him come out ahead of Tsunoda if we're lucky. But even then, there are DRS trains here. That's going to be the big one. So with 2.8 seconds, can he beat the... Yeah, he came out in 8th there. Actually, way better than anticipated. So that's not a bad window to kind of get out in. Alonso's still kind of in this, but you can see Verstappen has already gotten 10 seconds on Sainz on the same tire. So it's a bit of a rough one. And the same here with Tsunoda. He's kind of struggling to catch the cars in front, but he is getting further up the track. Played a little bit too much FM lately, kind of addicted, in my honest opinion, but at the same time, it is what it is. I'll probably confuse myself a little bit going forwards. But yeah, Alonso in the current position is looking kind of good. Let's see here now, 22.5, so a second quicker than most of the cars around, except for the two front runners there. So I'd say this is acceptable. And for Tsunoda here, we're just going to keep running these hard tires a little bit more into the ground. That way we could potentially run the mediums more aggressively. Also due to the fact that Tsunoda, when he pits, is going to come out behind show no matter what. So we'll see how we deal with the current situation here. Get a little bit of harvesting going here for Alonso, and we'll try and get him past this 4-man DRS train that currently is being led by Perez. So Alonso's actually done a massive job here and kind of immediately jumped past everyone in just a few laps. And as you can see, he's already creating gaps the rest of the field, setting fastest laps, and starting to hunt down signs. 9 seconds gap here. These guys are going to pit again, but so are we, and we're probably going to end up pitting onto the same tire. So that's going to be a little bit awkward, but at the same time, if we really wanted to, we could probably stretch this hard set till the end. But we're going to be extremely slow by the time we get there. So I think we'll kind of play it a little bit clever. We'll see in about around 10 laps time where we're at. If we get a safety car, we might try and take advantage. And honestly now, we are going to go ahead and pit Tsunoda because we kind of have to. And at the same time, let's just take a quick look at what we can do for Tsunoda's strategy. And if we run the medium or normal or aggressive, we can make it till the end. But there's just 1 second difference. So we're going to run it normal and then probably aggressive or attack more likely towards the end. And I think that's just a better option here. But even then, Tsunoda is going to have a hard time getting into any sort of point scoring position. It's just the reality of the situation. But it does come out ahead of Piastri and in kind of a good position here. So we can't be too upset. And right now we are gaining 1.5 seconds currently a lap on Sainz. We're gaining 1 second on Verstappen, but even then, I don't think this is going to be enough to take a win. But potentially we could take a podium here in Australia. But for now, we'll relax, we'll allow things to run their course, and we'll see where we're at in 8 laps time. So Verstappen and Sainz has just both of them opted to pit, but the quickest strategy that we can do here in our current situation is actually to go until lap 46, pit onto a soft tire, and go full attack. That's going to be the best that we can do, unless we decide to try and stay on these hard tires till the end. And honestly, I don't think that is viable. We'll have to see though what kind of lap times Verstappen is going to be setting, because he and Sainz have both pitted onto a used soft tire. So that does give us some options potentially. But I want to see what kind of lap times we're looking at before we make a decision. And currently he is running 8/10 quicker than us. So no way that we're holding on till the end. And the same can actually be said for Sainz here. Kind of. So I think we're just gonna play it safe here. We're gonna pit onto that soft tire in a few laps time. And that should, as I said, be the quickest strategy available to us. But it's also going to kind of rely on us getting out ahead of Stroll and Russell. So currently, we are kind of getting a little bit of a gap there, but at the same time, not really. So it's a bit of a weird one. Hopefully we can have Verstappen here give us a little bit of a tow for the last few laps before we pit. And Tsunoda here, we kind of left his own devices currently because, again, the car isn't quick enough to really get in the points. We aren't too far off, in all honesty. But at the same time, there's not much we can do at the moment. We'll tune the car up to aggressive and then attack towards the end. Alonso is getting a little bit of a tow here from Verstappen. And honestly, that tow might just be enough that we will be pitting this lap. But we'll be taking that little bit of a tow with us for the last 2 DRS zones. And we'll go into the soft tires. They should be 1.5 seconds quicker. And as I said here, we're probably not going to be able to beat Verstappen. Sainz is going to be the goal. Securing us a second place would be massively good here. So we're going to come out behind Sainz, but more importantly ahead of both Stroll and Russell. So honestly, I'm not concerned with that. We're going to go ahead and recharge, and then we'll launch an attack once we catch up to the car in front. We've had a small incident involving Gasly, and I believe that's De Vries. Not as violent as the Ferrari incident, so probably no big deal. But yeah, Gasly and De Vries. Alonso has gotten the overtake done. We have snatched fastest lap. We did push here. That's why we're 2 seconds quicker. But yeah, catching Verstappen is probably just wishful thinking at this point. I'll be honest. And potentially we should have pitted a lap earlier, but let's face it, goal here is to get second place, and we already established a 5-second gap to the car in front. Now, Tsunoda's in a bit of a interesting position here, because if we go full attack, we might be able to catch either Albon or Gasly, because Gasly was in that incident. But I don't know if he suffered any damage. Let's see if we can... Yeah, he did lose a little bit of his end plate. That's not massive damage, but even then, we'll see if we can snatch a point for Tsunoda, as that would be helpful. And again, no way we're catching Verstappen. We're gaining a second lap, 5 laps to go. Unfortunately, just if we'd pitted under that safety car, maybe we would have had a shot at it. But since we didn't, just no way to make that happen. And even Piastri holding us up a little bit there, it's not really helping. But yeah, Magnussen is also just powering through on some fresher tires. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. But we are in the DRS train, and we do need to conserve a little bit of fuel. So I'm going to slow things down here. Tsunoda, give you the deploy. See if you can get Albon and then maybe chase the other two with the help of that deployment. Because I need you to get within DRS of Gasly and stay there, and then make an attack, probably on this final lap. That is really the only way we're getting this done. So let's see now if you can pull it off on the main straight. We have used a lot of energy though, so we might have been using a little bit too much to make this happen. Because remember, our DRS is not great, but we got the move done. Now, can we survive till the end? That's going to be the big one. Verstappen is going to win, unless he crashes out. Alonso should be second. But even if it's just a point, I would be very happy with Tsunoda getting that here, honestly. And it does look like he's safe, pretty much. More like the gas in Albon is going to crash than anything else. But yeah, couldn't get Magnussen, but that's fine. If I micromanaged Tsunoda more, probably could have gotten at least one more position. Apparently we're not on the final lap. That's my bad. I thought we were.
Max Verstappen over the finish line.
So we need to survive this lap too. Which honestly should be fine because we're outside of DRS. We're not catching Magnussen though, so no real biggie there. But yeah, I'd say that's an acceptable second place and 10th place. We aren't catching Red Bull with this, honestly. But once Alonso gets the next few upgrades, he's probably going to be able to fight for wins at the very least. And once Tsunoda also get the upgrades, we can probably reliably have him up in at least 5th to 6th place. But again, we'll have to see what we do with the drivers. Bottas is an option, but he's going to require 14 million minimum to pick up. So that's going to be a little bit more challenging. But yeah, Alonso up into 7th. Still 55 points behind. We have a lot of work ahead of us. But we're up into 5th place, and things are looking good. Let's get the car set up for Baku. And hopefully, that should put us in a pretty good situation to, again, just start winning. Hamilton has leveled up. Very nice. But yeah, let's have a quick look here. March 1st, we're going to have to, basically the month ticked over, we're going to have to change some things up here. Adaptability, cornering for Tsunoda, not bad. Really wish he would have gotten some more points, but our driver sim isn't the greatest, so that is also kind of hampering his growth a little bit. Car development report. Apparently someone has overtaken us in high speed, but that's not a big deal. And we have failed the front wing and the rear wing, so that's probably kind of why. Now, there's an interesting thing that I'm going to be testing. That is basically, it seems that replacing parts manually does have an effect on your pit crew fatigue. So what we're going to be doing here is just go into staff, have a quick look at the pit crew. They're currently 28% tired. And we're going to go ahead and replace both of these, the rear wing and the front wing. And if we go into the pit crew right now, this should still be 28%. But if we go into the development here, the expected weariness, 28%, because technically it's still Sunday, I guess. But yeah, 19% is what we expect. I'm fine with giving them a couple of rest days. And I'm going to be trying it to manually stop it after just 1 day. Okay, this is interesting. So it says they're well rested, so they basically are 19% right now. That's the only way I can interpret that. I'm confused. Okay. Because we are on the 3rd of April, so it could just be a weird interaction with how it works after a race weekend. But we're going to go ahead here and do it like that. Turn it back down. And suddenly they're well rested, even though they're 28%. So I would assume, as I said, reality here is that they are 19. And we expect 10% tomorrow. We switched 2 parts. Let's see if I can just stop it immediately. 1 day. It worked. Good. And if we go into the pit crew now, we were suspected 10%. That is good. We are where we are suspected to be, honestly. So that didn't actually affect it. Changing front wing, rear wing. But I did notice that when I changed the suspension, the underfloor, the side pods for the cars, that we gained 3% more fatigue than we expected. So I assume maybe those 3 parts have an affect fatigue. Basically, when you switch between parts, maybe replacing parts doesn't do it. But I'll be looking at that too throughout this series, or this 1 season challenge that we're doing with Alpha Tauri, to see if we can kind of figure out how fatigue generally works. Yeah, for now, let's get things going. So I've gone ahead and revised the training schedule. As you can kind of see here, we're kind of focusing everything somewhat balanced. And I want to try this out and see if it gives you better pit stop, fatigue management for one, but also kind of the error chances here. So we are currently in kind of tight territory, but it's going to help pretty decently here come Friday to get the chance of mistake down by 0.5 percentage point, some pit stop times down, car building getting a little bit of a boost, and we're expected to be 4% on the fatigue level on Friday before Baku, but we are going to be replacing a lot of car parts before Baku, so I want to see if that fatigue goes higher than anticipated, because honestly there shouldn't be any real reason why we see more fatigue. I don't think we have anything particularly in the calendar that would have an effect on that. Driver media parents. But yeah, you don't see anything here. We do have race hospitality, which will, weaken the pit crew. But that is on the race weekend itself. So there should be nothing here that interferes with the pit crew training. So come the 27th, we should hopefully not really see any sort of incident or problems, if you will, with the pit crews themselves. Now, in terms of what we're getting designed here, we are going to have to make the underfloors, we're going to have to make the front wings, the rear wings, and that is basically it, I think. So I think we can just use 1 slot to get the rear wings made, and maybe even the front wings too, because we have 23 days here. So we'll use the other slots to get 1 slot set aside for the underfloor, which is done in a week. And that final slot then we can actually use to make spares. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll try and make as many spares as we can, starting with the suspension. And the rear wing here will be done now. Let's go ahead and get that manufactured. And this one is going to lose us a chunk of dirty air tolerance. But as I said here, it's going to hurt Sonoda most. But we are going to have to make this kind of sacrifice in order to get the most out of the car. Which is a shame to kind of say. But it is the situation that we're in, where we kind of have to. And financially, we are going to be focusing, of course, on just keeping all 4 slots running, because that's kind of what we have to do. But this is going to be another one of those boost parts, where we focus on, the 3 main things that we're looking at in the rear wing right now: dirty air tolerance, DRS, and top speed. So we're not going to be making this one. We're just going to be making it normally. We're not going to manufacture it. We're just looking for expertise here. And that should be it. Let's speed along. Regulation here. Let's see what we're getting hit with. Low or high speed wing changes. So only the front wing and the rear wing are getting hit with this. Our honestly, if we get high speed, that would basically be one of those regulations you can somewhat just straight up ignore. But losing the RS delta is going to hurt the rear wing a little bit, but this is basically something you can easily research to kind of counter if we want to play seriously. So if you're looking at it from a gameplay perspective where you're using research, go for this one. The AI is way worse at researching things than the player. So, but if you're looking at it from a perspective of, you know, do no research and allow the AI to kind of do the best they can, go for this one. Reduced deadline for the chassis. It's actually not a great thing because I believe that loses us some expertise. And if you remember, that chassis isn't actually one that we're planning to manufacture. It's just a boost piece. So that does chuck a little bit of a problem at us. But we'll just go ahead and make another boost piece. And then we'll have to see if we make another one or if we just manufacture the chassis after that. But as you can see, the underflow is done now. And we can go ahead and manufacture that right away. Financially, we might need to kind of hold back on making new projects. Because we need to, well, make things in time for one. But also we are kind of limited on money. So we'll just make 2 underflows here and hope that they don't destroy them. But again, this is what I was talking about earlier. You can see just how much better this underfloor is. And we haven't actually done much to it. It's basically just a second iteration after using CFD and wind tunnel time. I do hammer this in on a lot of the videos because it is important to realize just how much your AFD and wind tunnel time affect the part that comes after instead of the part that you just made. So it's something that I really, you know, would like to make sure people do kind of understand. Now, this underfloor design is going to be another one of those that we just make to kind of boost our expertise. We want to make use of all of our slots. And generally, what we only need to do now is make that from wing in 5 days. So as long as we have money for that, we should be happy. And we might end up having the 2 slots here, well, 1 slot at least, stay open for a while as we have back in 16 days. And then we'll just have to kind of deal with that then. But what I'm thinking we're going to do here is put some upgrades on both cars. Just see if, as I said, putting these upgrades on cars to give an increase, if you will, in fatigue gains. Suspension is manufactured, that is the spare, but we don't really have any money to manufacture any more spares, so it's not really anything we need to worry about. Speedy levels up, which is good. We're going to go ahead and manufacture these front wings. And we're going to go ahead and make 4 of them. And that's going to cost us 900,000, which leaves us with not a lot of money. So as I said here, this is going to basically mean that we're going to have to leave this slot open unless we want to go into depth. And honestly, that is not something I would recommend. And as you can see, we can't even go into the negatives if we wanted to for design purposes. So it's not even something that we need to deal with. So we got the change that we wanted, the high speed changes. So that is good. Research period is open. We are not going to be worried about that as it's not going to affect us. And we do have low suspension, low side pods in stock, but again, there's nothing we really can do about it, honestly. We have idle gas as well. But as I've said there's nothing we can do about these things. Front wings are on, rear wings are on, the side pods are on. The new underfloor, we need 1 more of these and then we're ready. So let's see how long that is going to take. I believe it's actually done on the day, if I remember correctly. Yeah, done in 4 days. So let's speed up those next 4 days here. Underfloor has been manufactured, and we'll put that on car 2. But what I want to have a look at right now is, because we changed those parts earlier, let's have a look at our pit crew here. And what we're seeing is that it's kind of what I expected here. That currently we are more wary than we anticipated, because if we anticipated 4%, but because we changed a lot of parts, we're currently up to 10%. So there is a negative to making a lot of parts. I don't know if it's a negative to replace certain parts, like we replaced a front wing and a rear wing because they were damaged. We didn't really see an increase in fatigue. But with the parts that we have replaced now before this race, we have hit an extra 6% of fatigue gain. And if that is the case, then making several different parts or more parts each year, it's going to add some fatigue gains, which can, of course, mess with the calculations, particularly if you have this happen during a race weekend. Let's say that you wait until the race weekend before you go in and change this. You'd probably get into kind of a lot of trouble doing that. But it is interesting to look at. I can definitely say for sure, well, pretty confidently at least, that going into your warehouse and replacing parts of your car does give fatigue gains. The question is just, is there a difference between chassis, between front wing, rear wing? I would assume so. Front wings you can kind of change in your sleep, but changing the chassis is more of a complex kind of work. So changing these does definitely have an effect. Changing engine, ERS, and gearbox is going to be something else that we'll be testing, but it does look like changing older components into newer ones does result in fatigue. But I'm looking forward to seeing if, say, the chassis, the suspension, side pods, and underfloor, replacing damaged ones, just replacing them, has the same kind of fatigue gain. For now, though, we'll jump into Azerbaijan, and we'll see if we can get Alonso his first win in Alpha Tauri. My apologies, but on second thought here, after seeing what time it is, and also considering how how much I've recorded so far, which is way more than I anticipated, probably because of the breaks, we're probably gonna have to just end today's part here, which means that this season 1 challenge with Alpha Tauri is probably gonna get split into 3 parts, which is fine because I'll be exploring 1.10, doing some other things in between. But honestly, I think that's just how we're gonna have to do it to, well, keep things going without making 3-hour episodes, because again, I might be a little bit hyped. I might not be in the perfect state of mind because I am taking kind of breaks. I've basically been recording this over the last almost 4 days because of voice. So it is what it is, but I think, as I said, we're going to have to split this up a little bit, and that's just how things are going to have to be. Again, don't worry, getting sick around Christmas is honestly a tradition at this point, and as I said, it just basically, it happens. It happens. So don't worry, I'm not recording. If I didn't want to record, I wouldn't be. So don't worry about it. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, though. We're getting very close to Christmas, so I hope you all have a well, merry holidays, merry festivities, and all that jazz. And I do hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching. Please like the video if you haven't, as that helps me out a ton. Subscribe if you haven't, that it would help me out too. And thank you very much. See you next time. Bye bye.